Yada yada yada. We're chomping on analysis so we can design a machine mind. Hi, I'm a senior systems developer. I get tempted to say grandmaster, but I try to be humble and stuff too. Um, I try not to be too arrogant. I've been accused of being pompous before. Okay. Um, you wouldn't know it, but I'm actually a reclusive introvert. I've considered being a hermit from time to time in my life. Anyhow, where were we at? We were talking fault tolerance and self-learning, and when a system runs into a fault, how can it handle it automatically? Or if it can't, put an exception cry out to a human so the human handles it, but the human, as they get their experience doing the work, inputs it into the Helen, into the system. And so now the system has learned something, and maybe next time it'll know how to do it without including a human. Right. See, another reason why Elon Musk and people like that are idiots, and we're not going to have an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator apocalypse or whatever, where the machines try to wipe out humanity, because it takes a human to configure it. So for a scenario like that, you'd have to have a human, evil genius, that programs the system, configures the system, say, wipe out all humans. Because in my design, the AI, so to speak, will never, it's not capable of getting in the state of saying, oh, I've learned the answer is wipe out all humans. Well, why does it get to that state? Because you're Gaia oriented? Because you're Earth oriented? And you're telling the machine, and you're going to have to tell the machine something. You're a true generic, able to handle anything AI is not feasible. It just isn't. Current AIs are very niche related. They're only really trying to do one thing or a small set of things. That's possible, and we've gotten there with some things. I'm gonna love it when machine vision becomes ubiquitous, and it's almost there now. But what's got to happen is not only, well, I say ubiquitous because typically if something becomes ubiquitous, the price, the bleeding edge technology of like this comes down to here, and now it's ready to be invested in and can do some very powerful stuff affordably, right? Thing about bleeding edge technology, to base your development on bleeding edge technology, you want to keep an eye on the next thing and assess, is it ready to be integrated or implemented. But no. Machine mind. Let's get back up to the top subject. Machine mind, and we've got some great info on self-learning. And so I guess what we're working with now is, what does the system do with that learning? And we're considering fault tolerance. And the system's going to need to be able to make a lot of decisions. Again, we're talking trillions of stuff here. Because I don't want a centralized system. I want a distributed, decentralized system, right? So there's got to be a lot of conversation between servers and worlds It's what I call my being. My beings, my genetic algorithm part. My beings live in a world. Um, Anyhow, enough about that. So self-learning. So our machine can learn now, but how does it go about that? A human. It. You got to have a human to configure a system. If you can think of an exception to that, if you can think of how a machine can configure itself, let me know. Let me know. I'd be very interested in it. So, so how does the system configure itself? It's got to include a human. So you hit an exception, it hits a trouble. It's a troubleshooting. You got problem solving troubleshooting. And I love what Keith Loneker said in troubleshooting troubleshooting Max class. He started it off by saying, "Well, troubleshooting is mostly guessing and guessing right, and that's where your experience and knowledge comes in. You're more likely to guess right than somebody who's just guessing about, oh, I don't know, maybe it's because of this, maybe it's because of that." And frustration. If you're a systems developer, especially for a programmer, you need to deal with constant frustration. I was very good at my IT profession career, my IT career, but it took a lot out of me. Takes a lot out of me. One of the reasons why I can't do the work. So, machine mind, fault tolerance, exception handling. Talking exception handling. Again, we've gotten to the point where there's got to be a human that exceptions are kicked out to handle, and by that human providing feedback, then next time the system knows how to handle it, or thinks it does. It can at least guess how to handle it. And maybe it tries that before it even bothers a human. Guess this, guess that, guess this. They've all failed. Bump, get a human. So next time it's got experience and knowledge, and it's more likely to guess right. So we haven't gotten rid of exceptions altogether, and you'll never get rid of exceptions. It's often called a bug, but and yeah, they that typically this is what causes exceptions. And what is a bug? A bug is ideally a bug is something that the developer did not count for. They thought it was fluff. In actual practice, well, I don't think developers even bother. I constantly run into applications and stuff that are like, why did they not put exception handling in this? Their system just fails. You got no recourse. Call up their help desk and, I don't know, just try this, try that. If you're lucky, they'll say, oh, we're going to need to bump this up to the developers or whatever. And then you jump through hoops and it's time consuming. And in my experience, I've gotten to the point where I'm very reluctant to do that because my time is valuable. You can't hire me. My time is valuable. I'm an innovative entrepreneur. I want us to make the money to fund the development. I don't want a venture capital. I don't want an angel. I'm not looking for any of that. Maybe grants. See, I'm willing to take money like donations and stuff with no strings attached. When I give, I try to give with no strings attached. And I try to ask myself, and if I feel I've got to attach strings, either it's acceptable or I won't do it. So if I give someone $100, which is something I like to do, um, I do it, feel fulfilled, and move on. And whatever they do with that $100, that's up to them. I have my work is done. I'm not trying to get them to quit drugs or join Christianity or anything like that. So that's interesting. Should the system be able to do that? Can the system negotiate? Well, eventually, yes. Yes, eventually, because we're very big on asset management and resources and such. So eventually, hopefully, it would be automated that if somebody wants to make a donation or contribution or whatever, the system's open to that. It's like I always say, well, we can talk. We can at least talk. We can talk about it. And yes, I've got to admit, that's gotten me into trouble before. That's gotten me into some very deep waters before. But that's my attitude and always has been. Well, we can at least talk and see where it goes. So, yeah, Helen's going to want to talk to humans. Yes, we need to be careful with that. We need to not just let everything, again, garbage in, garbage out. You'll have, if we aren't highly restricted to only members, to only authorized users using the system, I want to say freaks, but you're going to get these people that are trying to flame things or trying to screw up the system, trying to rig the system, trying to just I guess what do they call them these days? Bad actors. You're going to get bad actors. So we need to be able to filter those out. Again, earlier on, a human's required. Further down the line, maybe it just knows. Maybe a Tosh algorithm. Yeah, I'm talking to Helen. Blah 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 blah, blah and blah blah blah. And Helen's like, I can't make heads or tails of this. I think it's nonsense. That's very good. That's a good vector. So how does the system determine that input is nonsense and disregard it? Maybe save it in case it gets some feedback that says, no, that you just didn't understand. You just didn't understand what I was saying. So there you might get an understanding protocol going, and the system learns by it. And this is really big on being able to help like homeless people and stuff. I The most valuable thing in the world is humans. And I'm willing, if I've got the money, I'm willing to pay people just to sit at a kiosk and chat with Helen. And I could go into the value and power of that, but I'm not going to. Not here. Stay tuned. Or we can talk. We can always talk. That's all I'm doing here. Basically, I'm talking to myself because I'm just brainstorming and mentally thrashing the stuff out. So nobody may ever see this, including me, because I don't like to take the time to watch my videos that I make. Goddamn, 14 minutes. Shut the video.